Hey, my name's Carbonic, and today I will be showing you how to make special custom maps for Psychopomp Gold. I've been putting off this tutorial for a while, and I apologize for that. I hope it hasn't been too long, but I'm hoping that this video will make the whole process of creating custom maps more fun and easy, since the process is, at first, usually not super obvious. And because I think that everyone should try out level design at least once, because level design, it's a lot of fun. So let's get started. Please note that this is not a comprehensive tutorial on how to use software like Trenchbroom or software like Godot. There are plenty of really in-depth, great tutorials out there, and I will be linking some more in-depth things in the description. Your first step is to download the Psychopomp SDK. I've gone ahead and put a link in the description. It should be pretty easy to find, so go ahead and download it and extract it to wherever you'd like. Go ahead and open the Psychopomp SDK folder. You'll find a myriad of folders containing various different tools that will help you in creating a mod. Right now we are going to focus on the Godot folder, so go ahead and click on that. Go ahead and start up Godot. You might get this little error here saying that you have no projects. That's fine, just click cancel, and you'll see we don't have any projects, but we're not going to click new. Instead, we're going to click import. Up next, you're going to find your Psychopomp SDK folder. I made a bit of a mistake there. I accidentally chose the dashboard SDK, but we find the Psychopomp SDK folder. I'm having a bit of trouble here finding it. Then we are going to select the Psychopomp map pack folder and click select current folder. Go ahead and click import and it will open the project. Now that you're in the project, we have this scene that's empty. Just to show it off, go into the files on the bottom left, and we're going to go into mod scenes and open up init.tscn. Init.tscn is just basically a debug page full of the various entities that you can add easily to a mod. You can see we have players, we have keys, we have stuff like that. We'll be getting into that in a bit, but this is the last step we need to do in the Godot editor for now. If you are seeing a screen that looks like this, it means you have properly imported your project. So let's go ahead and move on to Trenchbroom. Go to the Trenchbroom folder in your main SDK folder, and you're going to open up trenchbroom.exe. You'll get a scene like this, and you're going to click on New Map. By default, it should already be configured so that Psychopomp already appears here. So double click on it, and you will be making a map for Psychopomp. Now, we have a few things we might want to set up. Your screen might look a little bit differently from mine. I've got these nice windows that show me the sides. I'd highly recommend it. So go ahead and click on View and then Preferences. Within the Preferences window, go to View and then Layout and select 4 panes and click Apply. Oh, I almost forgot. If you prefer to have a dark theme, you can also go into the View panel of the Preferences and just set your theme to dark. I personally prefer it for this, though I do like the light theme. I don't know, you're going to be working on maps for a long time. So, as I said earlier, this is not going to be a super in-depth tutorial on how to use Trenchbroom or Godot, but I still am going to cover some of the basics. So you see we have our starting block here, and if I click anywhere on the screen and drag, I start to create a new block. Once I release it, I can move up and down by holding Alt. Once I release it, it's finalized, and you can see that we now have 2 blocks. Every map in Psychopomp and every map made with Trenchbroom is based off of these blocks. If I hold Shift, I can move the sides of it, and I can move around and just start adding new blocks. Go ahead and mess around with this for a while. I think the best way to learn is just to play around with the tools and see what you can make. Just add as many blocks as you want, add them to your heart's desire. As you can see, I'm just moving around using WASD and using the mouse to look around, and I'm placing these blocks all willy-nilly, just creating a very basic scene here, just to start off. And an important thing to keep in mind when you're making this is that the player in Psychopomp is about 2 units high, so be sure to size your levels to that size. Now you might notice that our map is looking a little bit salmon-y, it's looking a little bit missing textures-y, so if we head up to the Face tab in the top right corner, we can start to look for textures. And yet, once you do that, you can see, well, uh-oh. But don't worry, it's an easy fix, and if you don't have any sort of textures here, don't worry, that's totally normal. Head on up to View and then Preferences again. We're going to go to the Games panel this time and select Psychopomp, and where it says Game Path over here on the right, we're going to click the 3 dots. Once again, we're going to find our Psychopomp SDK. I clicked Dashboard SDK again. We're going to go to the Psychopomp SDK, and we're going to find the Psychopomp Map Pack folder once again. Once you're inside it, you're going to select that folder as the main folder. Go ahead and click Apply, and as you can see, our texture browser is now full of textures. By default, you've got all of the Psychopomp textures in here. You can add more if you want later. But for now, let's apply it to this small map I've made. So if I click on one of the blocks, you can see it turns red, I can move it around. But importantly, if I go over to the texture browser and click on one, you can see it immediately applies and properly formats the texture to it. I'll do it again over here, and I'll just start filling out my textures over here. I'm kind of choosing just random textures on these walls. It might look a little bit ugly, but for now, just practice adding textures to blocks and see how you can really make the world come to life with textures, because I think this looks a lot better than simply keeping the missing textures. One last thing, taking a look at the upper toolbar at the top of the screen, we have more in-depth tools. For instance, I've selected the Edge tool, which allows me to move singular edges of blocks up and down. This is useful for creating ramps or specific objects and shapes that you wouldn't normally be able to make with just a cube. There's plenty of other things, stuff that allows you to select the individual faces. You can do a lot with this tool, even though it's all based around cubes. For a much more in-depth overview on how to use Trenchbroom, YouTube user DumpTruckDS has a beautiful tutorial series on how to make beautiful and interesting maps using this tool. It will be linked down in the description. I'd highly recommend you check it out. I'm going to speed up to the end of creating this map, so I'll see you then. Alright, so now we have our final map here. It's super small, nothing special, but it will be perfect for our tutorial. Time for us to save it, so go to File and Save Document As. Now within the Map Pack folder, we are going to look for our Mod Maps folder. And once you're in there, you're going to just save it as something you can remember. So I'm going with corridor.map. So now our map is saved and we can open it in Godot. We are done with Trenchbroom for the time being. Alright, we're back in Godot here, and as you can see, in the mod maps folder, the map I just saved, corridor.map, is showing up properly. Be sure to check wherever you saved this map, because it's important that it's been brought over. Let's start building our scene. Go to the top left and click on Scene, and then New Scene, and as you can see, we've got a brand new, completely empty gray screen. Make sure to set it as a 3D scene over on the left, and you can see we now have a node 3D. This is the main parent object of our scene, and everything that exists within our scene will be parented to it. Now, we've got a few prerequisites to get out of the way, and these are vital because without them, the map will not work. In the File System panel, check out the Mod Prefabs folder. This contains a ton of special prefabs that you'll be using a lot. We're going to add an entity spawner to our scene. Just drag it over into the gray space on the right, and you can see it gets added to our node 3D. This handles spawning everything in the game, from the player to objects to enemies. Without this object, nothing's gonna spawn and the game will just be a gray screen. Up next, we have a few more important things that we need to add. Head back to Mod Prefabs and you'll find the ENT player, which we're gonna just drag into the scene. We're also going to bring in an ENT egg. You need one of both of these. This is the player and the egg of the earth, respectively. We've got one last step with these two objects that's very important. Without doing this step, they also will not properly spawn. So right-click on your ENT player in the hierarchy, go down through the list, and we have access as unique name. Be sure to click that, and you can see this percentage symbol appears next to your ENT player. This is very important, and we're going to have to do it for the ENT egg object as well. So right-click on it, access as unique name, and you can see the same symbol appears right there. Cool. Now your level will properly run, but we don't have anything in it. It's just a gray void. So let's go ahead and add our level geometry that we made earlier in Trenchbroom. Go ahead and right-click on the main node 3D of the scene, add child node, and we're going to be searching for a Func Godot object. So type in Func, and you'll see it right there. It's this object right here, the Func Godot map object. Now it's been added, but we don't have our scene yet because we need to select it over on the right side in the inspector. So go ahead and click on the object in the hierarchy, and go to the inspector, and go to Local Map File, and click the folder icon so we can select our map file. I'm just going to find the one I created. It's in Mod Maps, Corridor. So it's been selected. You see it appears in the field where it's supposed to be. And we're just going to go ahead over to the main area and click Build. And as you can see, the level I built earlier is now in Godot properly. And this is great because Func Godot, this add-on, handles all of the collisions automatically, so things will collide properly, things will run into things, and it also handles stuff like this cool transparent texture. So we don't need to really worry about this. A lot of things are done on its own. One last very important thing, though, with this Godot map. We need to set it to be on a specific position, which is 0.5, 0, and 0.5. This is because of the way Psychopomp handles its grid-based movement. It's specifically looking for a 0.5 based grid. And if you set this wrong, you can end up with the player ending up in walls. I would just highly recommend you put your Func Godot object on a position of 0.5, 0, 0.5. Trust me, it will save you a lot of headache in the future. Now we're going to just go ahead and move the player into position. We want them to be on a 0 position, which I didn't realize for a second here that it was off of it. Here, as I said earlier, you can see that the player object is about 2 blocks high. And in the inspector, make sure you move your player by an integer count. I'm just moving it to 0, 0, 0, but you want it to be something like 1, 5. You don't want any sort of decimals. If you need to, you can hold control, and that will move your character by grid snapping. While you must keep the player on an integer value for the X and Z position, it's totally fine to go into decimals with the Y position. Right now you can see I've properly aligned her so that she moves in the expected grid formation. Now it's time to move the egg where we want it to be. Now this one doesn't need to be as stuck to the grid as the player since they don't move around. We just want it to be where I'm gonna have it appear. So I'm moving the egg straight to the end of the level right here, just in this corner. And just kind of putting it straight in the middle so it looks nice and aesthetically pleasing when you get into this final part. So yeah, we've got all we need here to make a fully playable level, but frankly, I think it kind of looks a little bit boring. Everything is gray, the sky is gray, it's pretty disgusting. So let's add a new object. So click Add Child Object, and we're gonna search for World, and click World Environment. And you can see we instantly have this little warning next to the node that says that we need to add an environment to the world environment or else it won't like have any sort of effect. That's easy though. In the inspector with the world environment selected, we're just going to click on this empty section under environment and say new environment. Now you can add all sorts of post-processing effects and other cool stuff to your level with this node, but for now we're just going into background and setting mode to custom color. And you can see everything's turned black, but that's perfect. That's what we want. Now technically, in the world environment, you can set this color to be anything. If you want, you can have it be blue, purple, red, anything. But Psychopomp is a game that kind of works the best when it's really, really dark. So we have this pitch black level, and we need to start lighting this so it looks pretty. So go ahead and we're going to add a new node. In the search bar, start searching for Omni, and you can see we have Omni Light 3D. Now we have a new light. We can move it around, we can place it in different areas, and we can begin to really bring the ambience of our level to life using these light nodes. I would suggest you go over here and you can change the color of the light to anything. Personally, my philosophy with Psychopomp in my mind is a very colorful game, so I would recommend you use colorful lights as much as possible. I'll move it up here just to make the light a little bit more dark at the bottom, a little bit more foreboding, a little bit more dynamic. You can duplicate it with Control D, and we've got another light right here. We can just start going ahead and duplicating this light, moving it around, and lighting up our scene, changing the color as we go so that we end up with a nice dynamic look. And I would suggest, while you keep it colorful, you're going to want to make sure that it's still at least internally consistent. You can also change all sorts of settings over here on each light. Now, importantly, there's one big setting that totally changes how these lights work, and I'll show it to you right here. If you go under Shadow and you turn it on, you can see that now the light casts dynamic shadows. Now, dynamic shadows are super cool. They're really nice. You can see how the way they are casting shadows from this cool grate. However, they are very intensive on your GPU and on your CPU. So be very careful. I would suggest use these as little as possible, but use them effectively because they're cool, they look nice, and I'm gonna use one right here just to set the mood with this cool shadow cast through the grate. And look at that, that looks pretty cool. You don't need to completely avoid these, just be aware that they do have an effect on performance. Generally speaking, you're not going to see nearly as much of an effect from shadowless lights. Alright, so now that I've got that, I'm just going to keep duplicating it. I'm going to turn off the shadows on this one since it doesn't really matter. And changing up the colors, thinking about the color space of this place, what I want it to look like, and how I want the player to feel as they explore this catacomb. Now our level is working here. It's fully functional. You can play it, you can beat it, but it's boring. There's nothing to stop the player from just walking up and winning instantly. So I think it's time we add some obstacles. We can do this easy if we just head back to the mod prefabs folder and we can select ent.door. ent_door, that is. And I can just drag that in and move it into position in this doorway. This door will be locked and require a key for the player to get through it. So I'm just lining it up here, getting into position, and we're going to need to go ahead and add a key for this door. The player will need to find a key of some sort. So I'll head over here where I want to have the key, just around this corner, and I'll drag in ENT key, move it on into position, and we're good. The player will be able to pick up this key, put it in their inventory, walk up here, up to the door, get through the door, and collect their prize. Now, keys and doors are all well and good, but let's add some danger to this level. We need an obstacle that will hurt the player. We need an enemy. However, there's some prerequisites that we need to do before we add enemies into this level. We can't simply drop enemies into the scene, or else they'll just stay still and won't attack the player. We need to give them a navigation region to follow. Alright, so go ahead and right click on our main node 3D in the hierarchy, and we're going to add a child node. This time we're going to look for region, and you'll find navigation region 3D. Go ahead and add that to the scene. The enemies need this to find their way around the level. Bring it up close to the top of the hierarchy. And this next step is important. We need to drop the entire Func Godot map node into the Navigation Region 3D component. Select the Navigation Region 3D component, and we are going to go over into the inspector, and where it says empty, we're going to click and then click New Navigation Mesh. Now, I ran into a bit of a confusion here. You're going to click Bake Nav Mesh right here in the center of the screen, up at the top, and I got a bit confused because it didn't appear, but it actually turned out it was a problem of what I had visible. You can see me clicking all over the place in frantic gestures. If you do not see something show up, you just need to go into your view menu and allow yourself to see gizmos. I had turned gizmos off just to make things a little bit more pretty for myself, but as you can see, I completely forgot and ended up panicking here. So here I turned on gizmos in that perspective menu, and as you can see, if I click Bake Navigation Mesh, boom, there it is. This is the polygonal navigation mesh that enemies will use to follow and chase after the player. Perfect. We're good to go. Crisis averted, I guess. So I'm turning gizmos back off again, just because I think it's a little bit hard to tell what I'm working on when they're on. But if we go ahead to ENT enemy, we can now drag one in, and by default, if you select that ENT enemy, you can see in the inspector it's set to custom. I'll show maybe in a separate video how to make truly custom enemies, but for now, I just want you to click on that and select the default one beneath it, the Blood Guard. This will give the basic Blood Guard enemy from the sewer level of Psychopomp, and for now, I just don't want you to get caught up in stuff like custom animations and stuff like that. This will do for now. So just select the Blood Guard and we are good to go. This is important, but I forgot to record it. Go to Scene and save Scene As, and save it as anything you want it to be called within the Mod Scenes folder. It's important that you place it there. This will allow the scene to be properly loaded. Now it's time to compile our mod so we can finally test our map. In the root folder of the SDK, you will see a folder called Mod Folder Template. Go ahead and make a duplicate of this template, and we're going to use this to store all of our mod data. Head on inside of your freshly named folder, and we have a few important files to go over. First of all, icon.png. This is just the icon that appears in the mod menu to the player. By default, it's just this picture of her. You can set it to be whatever you want it to be. I would highly recommend you make something custom. Info CFG is extremely important, but we will be covering it in a second. We have mod.zip. This is the actual content of our mod, and then we have just some instructions. Let's go ahead and open up Info CFG, and I'll show you how to set it. This will open in your default code editor or in Notepad if you haven't set any. I'll zoom in so you can see a bit better. We've got a couple of things to do here. We have mod name right up here at the top. This one's pretty obvious. This is the name that will appear on your mod. I'm just going to call it, once again, Corridor. We have mod type. Now this one's super important. Mod type 0 is just resource mods, so changing textures and models and music like that. But mod type 1 is what we're going to want to use if we're making custom maps that can be loaded in the game. So go ahead and set that to 1 if you're working on a custom map like we are here. So, mod description, another fairly obvious one. This is just the description that appears on the Psychopomp mod page in-game. So give it a short description. You won't have much space for this, just a cool and dark place. Mod directory. Now this is the actual mod that's going to get loaded when the player loads the mod, and it's pretty important. For the time being, I'm just going to leave this as mod.zip. Because it's easy to remember and we don't really have to worry about it. You can change this to anything you want it to be named, but you have to keep in mind just what you name it so you can keep it internally consistent. Now, this final one, mod init map, is very important. This is the mod map that gets loaded when the player loads the map pack. As you can see, it's by default set to the init scene that we had up earlier. That's just that test scene that I showed you at the very beginning of the video. But we don't want to load that scene when we start up your mod. We want to load your custom map that you just made. So go ahead back into Godot, and you're just going to look for the mod scenes folder where you saved your current scene. you're going to right click on your one. Mine is called corridor.tscn. Right click on it and then click copy path. This will give you the path to the object, and we're just going to replace this path we have in the info.cfg with the one we just copied. So res//mob scene/corridor.testscene. Good. So this is all we need to do here. Make sure you save it. Then we're done with info.cfg. Now, we have this mod right here, but we need to replace this mod file. So go ahead and delete that zip file right there, mod.zip, and we're going to make our own in Godot. Back in Godot, make sure everything is saved, and then click on Project, and then Export. You'll get this page. Go ahead and click on Windows Desktop. You might get some errors here, but they shouldn't cause any problems particularly. Go on down to the bottom, and you're going to select export pck/zip, and you can have it be either a pck or a zip. You just have to remember, I would suggest using a zip just because it's a little bit easier, but if you want a little bit more security, you can work with a pck. So go ahead and in this new save as, turn off export with debug. We don't want that. And we're going to look for our mod folder. I went a bit too far here. So I find my corridor folder that I just made, and I'm going to call it mod.zip to replace the one that we deleted just a little bit ago. It'll take a few seconds to a few minutes depending on the size of your mod, and it should be done. But now we have exported our file, and you see some little errors there, but they've never seemingly caused some trouble. Someone smarter than me might notice some real problems with that, but I've never seen anything bad happen, so we're good. So as you can see, we have our complete mod folder here, and it's actually ready to be tested in game if everything has gone according to plan. One thing I forgot to mention, and I highly recommend you do this, just replace that default icon. It's gonna be so much better for the visual presentation. It's gonna make your mod look far more professional. People are gonna be more attracted to your mod. Here you can see I'm just quickly replacing it with a random screenshot of the map. Even that's gonna be better, and you can see it's there. And we're all done. We're ready to test our mod. Alright, so go ahead and open up Psychopomp Gold and head to the mod menu. Once we're here, I have no mods here, but we can go ahead and open up the mod folder. And that will open up our app data mod folder right there. So now we go ahead and we're just going to go to our SDK and copy. And I would suggest doing a copy rather than moving the whole thing, and paste into our mod folder the mod we just made. And I'll go ahead and refresh the mod page right here, and there it is. As you can see, it has the mod type I added, the mod description and the name, and there is the icon I added. Pretty easy, and it's ready to be tested. So fingers crossed. Let's go ahead and check this out and click play. And here we are. Check it out. This is the map I just created, and now it is fully playable and ready to go in game. As you can see, the lighting is working. We've got proper grid-based movement. You can see how everything is working. We've got the proper doors there. We can't walk through it, so we have to go ahead down here, and let's see if the enemy there it is, and it's working. It's chasing us. We can attack it. We can fight it. We can kill it, and we're good to go. Let's walk on down here, take a look around the corner. There's our key. Let's go ahead and pick it up. Coming back around, heading up there to the door. And there we go. The door is open, and this wonderful egg of the earth is waiting for us. And once we click it, the level is over and it completes. You did it! You made a fully playable map for Psychopomp Gold. Now, You can add a lot more to these maps. You can add custom code, you can add custom models, textures, all sorts of stuff. And I would highly recommend that you add some sort of music. I just kind of skipped over that for the sake of brevity. Making maps is a lot of fun, but it can take a lot of practice, so don't worry if you didn't get it perfect the first time. Just keep practicing, keep making new cool stuff, think of places you would want to explore, and I'm sure you'll make awesome stuff. But how do we share that awesome stuff? How do we bring it to the entire player base? How do we put it on the Steam Workshop? Well, let's get to that. Head to the Workshop Uploader section of the SDK, and you'll find the Steam Workshop Uploader.exe. Go ahead and open it. As you can see, I've already got an example here. This is important. You will need to be logged in on Steam for this uploader to work, so make sure you're logged into the Steam client. So, back in the uploader, go to the very bottom. I've already got this one here, but we're going to ignore it. Go to the bottom and type in the name of your mod. I'm just going to call it Corridor, and then click Create Item. And this will make a lot of stuff that you can fill out. Basically, the name of the mod, the title, the preview image you want to use, and stuff like that. So we'll fill that out right away. I'm just going to put in Corridor here, and maybe like example for modding map tutorial, or something along those lines. Just fill out the description you want here, and we will, go from there. You can add tags here like maps or map packs or characters, and we're gonna probably want to keep this private for now since we'll still be testing it. Now you can go ahead, once you've done this, we'll need to set a few things, so you can go ahead and leave. I'll just set this to Corridor PNG for now, and we'll leave. If you go into the Workshop Content folder in the Workshop Uploader folder, you can find that it's automatically generated some folders for us to work with. So we're going to go back to our initial mod Corridor folder, copy the contents, and then we're going to go ahead and drop them straight into this new Corridor folder that has been generated, into the root of it. Just like that. We can also add what we want our image to be. I'm just going to call it Corridor PNG, and then we really should be good to go. As you can see, opening up the uploader again, it's taken in the image. I'm going to keep this to private, and I'll just write in init submit here and click submit corridor. And as you can see, it's uploading the content, and it failed because the image is too large. Weirdly, the base image has to be very, very tiny for it to be accepted, so I'm gonna have to really crunch down corridor.png in that main workshop folder. Here you can see I crunched that image down really small. Corridor.png is very small, but now it has been accepted. It says success. So now we can go back to Steam. We can go to Workshop, and if you click over here on your profile and files you've posted, as you can see, Corridor is right there and it's ready to go. So go ahead and click on your item that's appeared, and from here you can make it public so other people can play it. You can add much better images, you can add better descriptions and stuff like that. So I would highly recommend you add a little bit more detail to this profile so people know what they're getting into. Alright, and you're done. You've created a mod that is available for people to play in Psychopomp Gold from the workshop. I hope that this tutorial has been helpful. As I said earlier, there will be more in-depth tutorials on Trenchbroom down in the description. I hope this has been an enjoyable time. I really love making maps, and I hope you'll enjoy making them too. I can't wait to see what you make, And if you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I'll try to answer them as well as I can. Thanks. Bye.